The final stand commander, Alina Rodriguez, adjusted her formal uniform one last time as she walked through the corridors of the Grand Assembly Station. Her boots clicked against the crystalline floors that had been polished by 1,000 different species over the decades. She had walked these halls for 12 years, representing humanity in countless negotiations, mediations, and crisis management sessions. Today would be her final walk through them, the massive doors to the assembly chamber opened before her with their familiar harmonic chime. Inside, representatives from 847 different species sat in their designated sections, their forms creating a spectacular array of colors, sizes, and geometries that had once filled Alina with wonder. Now, they only reminded her of the weight humanity had been carrying for far too long. At the center of the chamber, the Proxima hologram still displayed, the contested star system that had sparked this final crisis. 3 different species claimed ownership of the mineral-rich worlds there, and their fleets were positioned in a tense standoff that threatened to explode into the largest war the galaxy had seen in centuries. As always, all eyes had turned to humanity for a solution. Elder Zektar of the Krillian Empire rose from his scaled throne, his reptilian features twisted with the urgency that had become common in these chambers. His voice carried the weight of desperation as he spoke. Honored humans, the situation grows more critical by the hour. The Cytherian fleet has moved within striking distance of our mining platforms. We need human peacekeepers deployed immediately to prevent bloodshed. Before Alina could respond, Ambassador Velenara of the Cytherian Collective stood gracefully, her translucent blue skin shimmering with the bioluminescent patterns that indicated high emotion among her people. The Krillians speak of bloodshed, while their own weapons target our civilian transports. We request human intervention to protect innocent lives. The third voice came from General Thane Voss of the Arctonian Republic, his cybernetic implants glowing red with anger. Both empires have encroached on territory that rightfully belongs to the Arctonian people. We demand human arbitration to restore the proper boundaries. Alina listened to the familiar chorus of demands, the same pattern she had heard thousands of times before. 3 species, 3 claims, and all of them expecting humanity to solve their problems while risking human lives in the process. She thought about the latest casualty reports from human peacekeeping forces. 47 dead in the last month alone, killed while trying to keep alien species from destroying each other. Dr. Sarah Kim, humanity's chief xenobiologist and Elena's closest advisor, sat quietly in the human delegation area. Alina caught her eye and saw the same wary resignation she felt herself. They had discussed this moment many times, planning for what might become necessary if the galactic community continued to treat human lives as expendable resources for their benefit. The chamber fell into its usual pattern of angry voices and wild gestures as each species made increasingly dramatic demands for human intervention. The Krillians threatened economic sanctions. The Cytherians warned of military action. The Arctonians spoke of withdrawing from trade agreements, and through it all, they continued to assume that humanity would simply send their people to die. For the sake of galactic peace, Alina stood slowly, and the chamber gradually fell silent. She had never interrupted the arguing before, always waiting for her turn to speak according to protocol. Her deviation from normal procedure sent ripples of confusion through the assembled representatives, honored members of the Galactic Assembly. She began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's advanced acoustics. For 50 years, humanity has answered your calls for help. We have sent our ships to patrol your borders, our diplomats to negotiate your treaties, and our soldiers to die in your conflicts. A murmur of approval ran through the chamber. This was the kind of opening they expected from human representatives, acknowledging their service before proposing another solution that would require human sacrifice. Alina continued, "In those 50 years, we have lost 12,000 human lives, maintaining peace between species that seem incapable of finding it themselves. We have spent trillions of credits on peacekeeping operations, humanitarian aid, and infrastructure projects that benefit everyone except humanity." The murmur became more uncertain. Elena's tone was different from what they were used to hearing. From human ambassadors, there was an edge to it that hadn't been there before. "The Proxima crisis has reached a point where you are asking us to deploy 50,000 human peacekeepers to a combat zone where they will inevitably face casualties. You want us to send our people to die because 3 species cannot resolve a territorial dispute like civilized beings." Elder Zektar stood again, his voice taking on a more respectful tone. "Commander Rodriguez, surely humanity understands the importance of maintaining galactic stability. The human reputation for fairness and courage is legendary. Who else could resolve this crisis?" Alina looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives she had worked with for years. "You could resolve it yourselves. You are all intelligent species with advanced civilizations. You have the capability to negotiate, compromise, and find peaceful solutions. You simply choose not to because you know humans will clean up your messes." The silence in the chamber was complete. Now, even the automatic translation systems seemed to pause as they processed words that had never been spoken in these halls before. Dr. Sarah Kim stood beside Alina, followed by the rest of the human delegation. The movement was coordinated, rehearsed, and sent a clear message to everyone watching. "The answer is no," Alina said simply. "Humanity will not deploy peacekeepers to Proxima. We will not mediate this dispute. We will not provide economic support, technological assistance, or diplomatic solutions." Ambassador Velenara's bioluminescent patterns shifted to colors that indicated shock and disbelief. "Commander, you cannot be serious. Without human intervention, this crisis could escalate beyond control." "Then it will escalate," Alina replied calmly. "That is your choice to make, not ours. For 50 years, humanity has enabled your species to avoid taking responsibility for your own actions. We have been so effective at solving your problems that you have forgotten how to solve them yourselves." General Voss stepped forward, his mechanical voice carrying a threatening undertone. "The consequences of human withdrawal could be catastrophic. Surely the Earth government has not authorized such a drastic action." Alina activated her portable communication device and projected a holographic message into the center of the chamber. The image showed President Maria Santos sitting in the Oval Office in Washington. To the members of the Galactic Assembly, the President's recorded message began. "The United Earth government has voted unanimously to withdraw from all galactic peacekeeping operations, effective immediately. We are recalling all human military forces, diplomatic missions, and aid programs. Humanity wishes you well, but we will no longer serve as your guardians." The chaos that erupted was immediate and deafening. Representatives leaped from their seats, shouting questions and demands in dozens of different languages. Translation systems struggled to keep up with the rapid-fire exchanges of panic and anger that filled the chamber. Alina gathered her documents and activated her personal communicator. "Captain Chen, this is Rodriguez. Execute Operation Homecoming. The response came immediately. Acknowledged, Commander. All human vessels are beginning withdrawal procedures. Estimated completion in 72 hours. Through the chamber's massive windows, Alina could see the first human ships departing from the station. The sight of their departure sent fresh waves of panic through the alien representatives, who finally began to understand that this was not a negotiation tactic. Elder Zektar fought through the crowd to reach Alina as she prepared to leave. Commander, please reconsider. Name your price. What does humanity want? Better representation in the assembly, exclusive mining rights, advanced technology sharing. Alina paused at the chamber door and looked back one last time. We want you to grow up, she said quietly. We want you to take responsibility for your own civilizations and stop treating human lives as expendable resources for your convenience. She walked out of the assembly chamber for the last time, followed by the entire human delegation. Behind them, the chaos continued to build as the reality of human withdrawal began to sink in. As Elena's shuttle departed from Grand Assembly Station, she could see through the viewport that the Proxima system displays were already showing movement. The three fleets that had been held in check by the promise of human peacekeepers were beginning to advance on each other. The crisis that had seemed manageable with human intervention was about to become something much worse. Dr. Kimber settled into the seat beside Alina as their shuttle joined the growing convoy of human vessels. Leaving the station, do you think they'll learn? She asked. Alina watched the alien ships scrambling to reposition themselves around the station, trying to adapt to a reality without human protection. They'll have to, she replied, because we're not coming back to save them this time. The shuttle's communication system activated with a priority message from Earth Command. Admiral Jackson's face appeared on the screen, his expression grim but determined. Commander Rodriguez, all human forces are withdrawing according to schedule. Early reports suggest immediate conflict breakouts in 12 sectors previously maintained by our peacekeepers. Alina nodded, acknowledged, Admiral. How are our people handling the transition? Better than expected. There's a sense of relief among the crews. They're tired of being taken for granted. But some are concerned about the civilian populations that might be caught in the conflicts. Humanitarian aid continues according to the withdrawal plan, Alina confirmed. We'll help refugees and provide medical assistance, but no military intervention. They need to learn to solve their own problems. As their convoy reached the edge of Assembly Station's defensive perimeter, Elena's console lit up with incoming communication requests. 17 different species were trying to contact her directly, no doubt with offers, threats, or desperate pleas for humanity to reconsider their decision. She deleted all the requests without reading them. The time for negotiation had passed. Humanity had made its choice, and now the galaxy would have to live with the consequences of their own actions. The jump to hyperspace engaged smoothly, carrying the human delegation away from the chaos they had left behind. Alina closed her eyes and felt a weight lifting from her shoulders that she hadn't even realized she'd been carrying. For the first time in years, humanity's future was in their own hands again. Behind them, the galaxy began to tear itself apart without its guardians. The great unraveling 6 months after humanity's withdrawal from galactic politics. Captain Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship New Horizon, watching the chaos unfold beyond human space with a mixture of sadness and grim satisfaction. The massive tactical display showed the current state of the galaxy, and the picture it painted was devastating. Red zones marked active conflicts across 47 star systems. Yellow indicators showed regions of political instability where governments had collapsed or were on the verge of collapse. The few green zones of relative peace were shrinking daily as the violence spread from one system to another like a plague. "Captain, we have another refugee convoy requesting permission to enter our space," reported Lieutenant Commander Jessica Park from the communications station. "It's the largest one yet. 300 ships carrying approximately 2 million beings from the former Krillian colonies." Chen nodded grimly. The refugee crisis had been building steadily since humanity's withdrawal. Species that had relied on human protection found themselves defenseless when their neighbors decided to settle old grudges with military force. Grant them humanitarian passage to New Geneva Station. Standard protocol for processing and temporary shelter. Dr. Sarah Kim, now serving as humanity's chief advisor on alien affairs, looked up from her analysis station. "Marcus, I've been tracking the cascade effects of our withdrawal. It's worse than even our most pessimistic projections predicted." The main display shifted to show Dr. Kim's latest analysis. What had started as localized conflicts had grown into something resembling galactic civil war. Ancient alliances had crumbled, trade routes had been abandoned, and entire species were fleeing their home systems. "Show me the Proxima situation," Chen requested. Though he suspected he already knew what he would see. The display focused on the star system that had triggered humanity's final decision to withdraw. Where once there had been 3 organized fleets maintaining a tense standoff, now there was only debris and radiation signatures from multiple nuclear detonations. The mining platforms that all 3 species had fought over were gone, destroyed in the opening hours of a war that had consumed the entire system. All 3 species lost their fleets, Dr. Kim reported quietly. The Krillians, Cytherians, and Arctonians destroyed each other completely. The system is uninhabitable now. The mineral wealth they fought over is contaminated and worthless. Chen felt a familiar pang of regret. Those were millions of lives lost because 3 civilized species couldn't resolve a territorial dispute without violence. But he pushed the feeling aside, remembering the human peacekeepers who had died trying to prevent exactly this kind of tragedy in dozens of other conflicts. "Captain," called out Commander Park, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the former Grand Assembly Station. It's marked as an emergency diplomatic communication." "Put it through," Chen decided, curious to see what the galactic community wanted now. The holographic display activated, showing a figure that Chen barely recognized. Elder Zektar, once the proud representative of the Krillian Empire, now looked haggard and desperate. His scaled skin had lost its lustrous sheen, and his eyes held the hollow look of someone who had seen too much death. "Captain Chen, I know humanity has withdrawn from galactic affairs, but I must speak with Commander Rodriguez. The situation has become impossible. Please, we need human help." Chen gestured to Dr. Kim, who nodded and stepped forward. "Elder Zektar, Commander Rodriguez is on Earth. I'm Dr. Sarah Kim, serving as liaison for refugee affairs. What is your situation?" The elder's desperation became even more apparent. "Dr. Kim, the Grand Assembly Station itself is under attack. 7 different species are fighting for control, believing that whoever holds the station can claim authority over galactic government. We have over 50,000 beings trapped aboard with no way to evacuate them safely." Dr. Kim's expression remained professionally neutral, though Chen could see the concern in her eyes. "Elder, humanity's position remains unchanged. We will provide humanitarian assistance to refugees who reach our space, but we cannot intervene militarily in conflicts between other species. You don't understand, Zektar pleaded. The entire galactic civilization is collapsing. Without human peacekeeping, without your mediation, we cannot maintain order. Species that have been peaceful for centuries are reverting to primitive territorial instincts. Chen stepped into the transmission. Elder Zektar, with respect, this is exactly what we warned would happen. Your species became so dependent on human intervention that you lost the ability to resolve conflicts among yourselves. The elder's scaled features contorted with frustration. We were not dependent. We were ... cooperative. We worked together through human coordination. That is not the same thing. It is exactly the same thing, Dr. Kim replied firmly. When was the last time any major galactic crisis was resolved without human involvement? When did your species last negotiate directly with each other instead of asking humans to mediate? The silence that followed was answer enough. Zektar's shoulders slumped in defeat. What can we do? How do we stop this chaos? Chen felt a moment of sympathy for the alien leader, but he had learned hard lessons about enabling dysfunctional behavior. You learned to do what humanity did for thousands of years before we met you. You talk to each other, you negotiate, you compromise, you take responsibility for your own actions and their consequences. The transmission ended with Zektar's image flickering out, leaving the bridge of the new horizon in contemplative silence. Commander Park broke the quiet with another urgent report. Captain, we're receiving distress signals from the Vega sector. It appears that the Draconian Republic has completely collapsed. Their government fled the capital, and warlords are fighting for control of the military. Dr. Kim updated her display with the new information. That makes 15 major governments that have fallen since our withdrawal. The power vacuum left by missing human peacekeepers is being filled by the worst elements of each society. Chen studied the galactic map, noting how the chaos seemed to spread along the routes that human patrol fleets had once traveled. Any signs of species trying to fill our role? Anyone stepping up to maintain peace? Some attempts, Dr. Kim reported. The Altarian Federation tried to mediate the Centauri trade dispute, but they lacked the military backing to enforce their decision. The Regilian Consortium attempted to establish peacekeeping patrols in the Outer Rim, but they were overwhelmed within weeks. A new communication request appeared on Chen's console, this one from an unexpected source. Admiral Elena Rodriguez's face appeared on the screen, calling from Earth Command. She looked older than she had 6 months ago, bearing the weight of humanity's decision and its consequences. Marcus, I need a status report from the border regions. The President is facing increasing pressure from humanitarian groups to intervene in the worst conflicts. Chen gestured to the tactical display. Elena, it's bad and getting worse. We've processed over 8 million refugees in the past month alone. The Proxima system destroyed itself completely, and 15 major governments have collapsed. The galaxy is tearing itself apart. Elena's expression remained firm despite the grim news. Any regrets about our decision? Chen considered the question carefully. He thought about the human lives that had been saved by withdrawing from galactic peacekeeping operations. He also thought about the millions of alien beings now suffering because their species had never learned to resolve conflicts without human intervention. None, he said finally. This was always going to happen eventually. We just delayed it by 50 years. The question now is whether they'll learn from this catastrophe or simply wait for someone else to save them. Dr. Kim stepped closer to the communication display. Admiral, I've been analyzing the species that are adapting best to the post-human galaxy. The ones succeeding are those that maintained their own diplomatic traditions and didn't rely entirely on human mediation. Which species? Elena asked with interest. The Andromedans are doing well. They never fully integrated into the human-managed peace system and maintained their own conflict resolution methods. The smaller species alliances that we never had time to manage are actually more stable now than the major powers. Elena nodded thoughtfully. So the most dependent species are suffering the most, while the independent ones are adapting. Exactly. It's almost like they need to relearn skills they let atrophy during the decades of human protection. A priority alert interrupted their conversation. Commander Park's voice carried new urgency. Captain, we have an unusual situation developing. Several species representatives are requesting a meeting at Starbase Unity. They want to discuss forming a new peacekeeping alliance without human involvement. Chen raised an eyebrow. They want to solve their own problems. That's unexpected. Dr. Kim pulled up information about the developing situation. It's mostly smaller species that were never major players in the old system. They're calling it the Independent Worlds Alliance. Their stated goal is to maintain peace through mutual cooperation rather than dependence on a single dominant species. Elena's image on the communication screen showed the first smile Chen had seen from her in months. Now that's interesting. Are any of the major powers involved? Not yet, Dr. Kim replied. But some of the surviving Krillian colonies are expressing interest. Parts of the former Cytherian collective that avoided the Proxima disaster are also sending observers. Chen felt a stirring of hope for the first time since humanity's withdrawal. They might actually be learning. The ship's alert system activated with an incoming refugee convoy, larger than any they had seen before. Chen watched the tactical display as hundreds of ships approached human space, carrying beings fleeing from conflicts that their own governments had created through decades of irresponsibility. Captain, Commander Park reported, the convoy commander is requesting permission to broadcast a message to all human vessels in the area. Let's hear it, Chen decided. The voice that came through the communication system belonged to a being Chen didn't recognize, speaking in heavily accented but clear standard Galactic. This is Commander Velthin of the Independent Refugee Fleet. We carry 2.5 million beings from 17 different species. We come to human space not seeking permanent sanctuary, but asking for time to organize our own response to the galactic crisis. Chen exchanged glances with Dr. Kim. This was different from the usual desperate pleas for human intervention. The alien commander continued. We have formed a provisional government representing species and individuals who reject the chaos consuming our galaxy. We seek to establish new colonies in unclaimed systems where we can build a society based on mutual cooperation rather than dependence on others to maintain peace. Dr. Kim leaned forward with interest. They're not asking us to solve their problems. They're asking for space to solve their own problems. Chen activated the communication system. Commander Velthin, this is Captain Marcus Chen of Earth Defense. We welcome refugees seeking humanitarian assistance. You'll find temporary facilities at New Geneva Station, but I'm curious about your long-term plans. Captain Chen, we have learned hard lessons from our species' failures. We intend to establish self-governing colonies that can defend themselves and resolve disputes through negotiation rather than violence. We will not repeat the mistakes that led to galactic dependence on human protection. Elena's image on the screen showed growing interest. Captain, grant them full humanitarian support. I want to monitor this development closely. As the refugee convoy passed through human space toward their temporary destination, Chen felt something he hadn't experienced in months, hope that the galaxy might finally be growing up. Dr. Kim updated her analysis with the new information. Marcus, if this independent worlds alliance succeeds, it could be the beginning of a new galactic order, one based on genuine cooperation rather than enforced peace. Chen nodded, watching the massive convoy disappear toward the processing stations. Let's hope they succeed. Because if they don't, the galaxy will remain in chaos until they finally learn to take responsibility for themselves. The future remained uncertain, but for the first time since humanity's withdrawal, there were signs that some species might be ready to stand on their own. The question was whether they could learn these lessons before the galaxy destroyed itself completely.